Hi, I'm Antonio Centeno, the founder of Real Men Real Style, and today we're going to be talking about how to find a quality tailor. Okay, if you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. By doing that, these videos will come right to you. In addition, if you like this, if you find it useful, I would appreciate it if you would like it down below. In addition, if you'd like to comment, if you've got some tips on how to find or select a quality men's tailor, well, go ahead and leave it right there in the comments. And I love hearing from tailors. I know some of you guys are out there watching and would love to hear your feedback as well. Finally, if you want to learn more about men's style, of course, there's my 47-page ebook right down there. And I've already talked about that probably over 100 times. So I'll let you get right to it. All right, this is the question that came in. Antonio, I love your channel and your videos. They're really helpful and I'm needing to dress up more. I have a question that maybe you can help me with. How do I find a good tailor? You've mentioned tailors and that there are good ones and bad ones. I live in a medium-sized town, and I doubt there's a high demand or excellent tailors in my area. So how do I determine what's a good tailor, what's a bad tailor? Thank you for your help and good work. All right, that's a good question, and it sounds pretty intuitive that, yeah, if you're in a smaller town, there's going to be less competition, and you're going to have less access to tailors. That's not always true because there are diamonds in the rough, and that's why I think it's important that a man be able to identify a good tailor. And when I say tailor, it could be seamstress, tailor, seamstress. They're all kind of interchangeable nowadays. Technically, there is a difference. I know that there is a difference. But for all intents and purposes, if somebody's listed as a seamstress, if somebody's listed as a tailor, go ahead and in many ways treat them the same. Usually women are going to be considered seamstresses. Men are tailors, but that is interchangeable. And again, we're playing with definitions of words here. That really comes down to, and I've put out a great article, which I'm going to link you to down below, but I have 7 steps in which I recommend a man go through as he's trying to identify a good tailor or seamstress in his local town. And just to tell you my story, whenever I moved to rural Wisconsin, we needed to find some good tailors. And, to work with my company, I have a lot of alterations that I wanted to expand out. And how in the world was I going to find quality tailors or seamstresses outside of Chicago or New York? Well, it turns out that if you look, you can find people who have the skills and who can be trained up. In addition, we actually have some immigrants in our area, and there is a Russian seamstress who turns out, my wife's Ukrainian, so she's Russian. Instantly, they got together. They're speaking, their Slavic languages all over the place. But, it worked out perfect for us because here's a woman that went to one of Moscow's best fashion institutes, learned how to sew over in Moscow and St. Petersburg, and now she's living over here in central Wisconsin. Who would have figured? But she's great because she actually fits all 7 of these points, which I'm going to get into, or you'll see. But yeah, so you just need to know what to look for, and you'll be able to see those diamonds in the rough and latch onto them. So what are those 7 steps? Let me get right to it. Number 1, educate yourself. And so, yes, you have to do a little bit of work. You have to know what you're asking for. It's like, if you're looking for a foreman or looking for someone to work on your house, you have to have a decent idea of what you want to have done. You can't just expect the first guy you call up, that you invite over to your house, that you just say, hey, I want to get my kitchen remodeled. Here's $5,000, get it done. I mean, you're not going to get what you're looking for. You need to do a little bit of research. You need to have a good idea of what you want. And usually, the more research you do up front to a point, you'll be able to very expressly articulate exactly what you want. It's the same with when it comes to clothing and alterations. The more you know and the more you can be detailed about exactly where you want something brought in, the better the tailor's going to be able to deliver it to you because they're not mind readers. I highly advise, if you haven't already, go to my blog, Real Men Real Style. I've also got a website called tailoredsuit.com. We've got a free style guide there, just tons of articles. If you need more, go to forums like Ask Andy, Style Forum. There's books that you could order on Amazon, and we're talking $10 to $15 to $20. So Gentlemen by Bernhard Rosell, Anything by Alan Flusser. There are so many great books out there, and again, you have to spend a bit of time educating yourself. So that's the number 1 thing. Number 2, ask for recommendations. Look who the best men are dressed in your area and ask them what tailor they use. If you can't find any men that use any tailors in your area, well, ask some of the women. Because women use tailors and seamstresses more often than we do. So it is something that, maybe it's a great conversation starter for you too, but kind of ask them where they're getting their clothing adjusted. You may find some very interesting stories. I know here in the Midwest, we've got a lot of religious communities like the Mennonites, the Amish, and these groups, they are actually great with the needle and thread because they're making all of their own clothing in many cases. So I know a lot of the cleaners in my area actually send their alterations to be done by some of these ladies because they're the best people with the needle and thread. And you may ask, well, what happened to all of America's seamstresses and tailors? And I think back in the 1970s and 60s, 70s, 80s, we saw it really die down. And so a lot of young people did not want to get into this craft. It didn't pay well. It still doesn't pay too well. And it's one of those things that you have to put in a lot of effort. You have to usually start young. And so most of the tailors are older. It's kind of a dying craft, except in these communities where they still make their own clothing. The other one's going to be solid communication skills. So I'm on point number 3, solid communication skills. A lot of tailors, like I said, it's a dying craft. A lot of them are coming from other countries. And you may find a gentleman, he may have incredible skills, but if you don't speak Korean and he only speaks Korean, you're going to be hard-pressed to have that. There are going to be some communication gaps. And maybe you've got a great translator, but in the end of the day, you've got to make sure he understands what you want. All right, number 4, when is this person satisfied? So this reminds me of a story. We were over in Thailand, and I was with the Marine Corps at the time, and my buddy Trey, he had a suit made. The guy came out, looked at the suit, or actually it was a shirt, looked at the shirt, and he thought he went crazy. For some reason, his assistant made some mistake, and he tore it off Trey's body. I mean, now you don't want a tailor that's going to tear clothing off your body unless she's incredibly attractive, and well, that's a whole nother, we'll talk about that some other place. But no, what I'm getting at, guys, is that you want to make sure that they have really high standards because they do work that you can't see. I mean, they're going to do stuff inside the jacket, and you don't want it to be, all messed up in there. So make sure they've got high standards. The other one is, it'd be great, and this is number 5, and this is very rare, and I did find it with my Ludmilla, who I use here locally. She understands style. She went to an institute where they taught her all about design. Most tailors and seamstresses, they don't understand this, and if they do, they're over in Milan or they're in London or they're in areas where they're getting paid buku dollars because they understand style and they can sew. So that combination is pretty rare, but if you can find it, you don't let go of that tailor or seamstress because that's gold. Number 6, look at some of their sample work. Ask to see things they've worked on. Most tailors, they've got stuff all over the place, especially if they're doing alterations. And they can show you work probably from clients who probably dropped something off and never picked them up, which actually that's, here's a hidden tip. Maybe they've got something in there that's been sitting there for a year or two, which they might want to sell you and will look great on you. The other number 7 is availability. So if you need something done, you need it done quick, you want somebody that's available. Now, the best tailors and seamstresses, they're going to be busy. And if you don't need it done quickly, don't push it. But you want somebody, and this is why you want to form a long-term relationship. Because if you need something in 2 days or 24 hours, perhaps, you need the kind of relationship that you can go in there and say, hey, I know this is short notice, but I really need this. It would mean so much to me. And when they do deliver, tip them. I mean, these are people that are not making huge amounts of money, and they went out of their way to take care of you. Okay, so that's how you find a quality tailor. This one was a pretty easy question for me because I've written about this multiple times, and I wish you the best of luck. Use Google search. You can go out there and you can see what people are saying, but take it with a grain of salt because those recommendations and things people say, oftentimes, they're complaining about something. It's not even related to the tailor. Maybe they had a bad dry cleaning experience and they're relating that to the tailor who just happens to work in the dry cleaner. So, make sure, take this checklist, go in there and talk with the person, and best of luck finding a local tailor. You can do it. I know I was able to. Okay, see you in the next video. This has been Antonio Centeno with Real Men, Real Style.